Welcome to Authentic Living with Roxanne, a place where we have conscious conversations about things that really matter in our lives. And now here's your host, Roxanne Derhaj.
Hi everyone, it's Roxanne Derhaj of Authentic Living with Roxanne. Today I have a colleague, Kelly Blackaby, and Kelly brings a unique expertise, I think a topic that I've touched on, which is basically women in leadership. But her perspective is a bit different in that she works with a lot of emerging leaders in the Middle East. And I thought it's a conversation that was very valuable to have. So Kelly, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Roxanne. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
So Kelly's been in international HR, I think, for about 20 years or so, and working. I think you've been working in the Middle East for quite a long time. So tell us a little bit about kind of your process and what ended up, getting you to the space where you ended up working a lot in the Middle East.
Sure, fantastic. So yes, as you said, I've been in the HR industry for 20 years. Was lucky enough to have the opportunity to work in Saudi Arabia for a large organisation that's based over in Riyadh. I worked there for 8 years and then came back to the UK, but continued to support them as an HR and culture consultant. I was one of the first women to be ever employed actually within my sector while I was over in Saudi Arabia, and then later went on to introduce the first female workforce into the organisation once legislation had changed, created the first female focused policies, and still today continue to coach and mentor Middle Eastern ladies, in particular supporting newly promoted female leaders who are transitioning into new management roles and female entrepreneurs with their business proposals and helping them to take that forward.
Curious, right? Because you hear about this time, and I think in different parts of the world, we kind of think it's a concept, right? But you were at the kind of the beginning point where things were just opening up for women in the Middle East. What was that like for you? Obviously, born and raised in the UK, been working in Europe or internationally. What was that like for you as a senior female leader entering that realm?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it was fascinating. I was the most senior female employee at that point, and also the only female employee in human resources. So I actually had a lot of opportunity to help to drive some of that change, which was fantastic. And the organisation itself actually was quite responsive to that change. I think in terms of, if we talk a little bit about Saudi, I mean, in 2009, so while I was there, only 14% of Saudi women above the age of 15 were employed. Most of that was in the public sector. So in the private sector where I was, only 8.5% of Saudi workers were women in 2009. And most of the roles were held by men or non-Saudi expatriate workers. But Saudi women make up 32% of the workforce now that we move many years later, and there's a huge opportunity there for Saudi ladies to join the workplace. And I think even back when I was employed as one of the very first women, the Saudi organisations did recognise that there was this huge untapped resource that was waiting to come and contribute to the economy and contribute to the workplace. It was just having the opportunity really to kind of access them. So yes, it was great when it changed.
So interesting, right? Because we talk a lot about parity, other parts of the world, and you coming into an environment where now, like you said, 32%, that's massive compared to when you started. So how is it that there's a lot of female executives now, like you said, in Saudi? What's it like let's say, from an international frame, if we look at, Europe or Asia or even North America, and you look at a female executive and and I know it might be an unfair question, but how do they compare to
Yeah.
other, say, female executives?
Yeah, sure. So I think Saudi itself has done a lot of work in terms of helping to support Saudi leaders, female leaders within the workplace. So they have made some great progress. They've introduced some reforms under their Vision 2030, which is their national development plan, to bring some changes to support women. And they've really benefited. So, for example, they've been looking at closing gender gaps within introducing a minimum salary for Saudi women. They've looked at equalising retirement age for women, which was always very different. And they've also introduced greater protection from discrimination and harassment in the workplace. So I guess what else needs to be done, and what else is it that female leaders are potentially looking for or still lacking within the organisation? And I think what doesn't exist at this point is the sort of history, I guess, of that and that peer structure for female leaders. So they are the very first of their generation and in history to take these roles. And so what we have in other parts of the world is access to peers, to mentors, to coaches, to tools that have existed and been tested throughout the years to help us within our positions. And that's something which I think, having spoken to many Saudi ladies, and as I say, I do mentor quite a few still at senior positions, and that's something that I think they feel is still developing and still something that's much needed in the region.
I think of, again, historical context. When I was a senior leader and I was trying to kind of go up a level, I would find, someone that could kind of mentor me accordingly to kind of go up, as a level. But this is not something that really has been, like you said, it's a historical legacy piece that they are the beginning point. They're the forefathers. I'm not sure what the proper word would be for. They are building history as being the first ones. So that's an interesting thing. So I know that you have been working arduously to develop something which would kind of help some of these needs. So tell us a little bit about that, because when Kelly and I spoke, it was fascinating because these are things that mentors, mentees, allies, all those things are things that, we're continually looking at on a corporate lens here in North America. But this is something that really, based on need in the Arab countries, that you're actually building from the ground up. So tell us a little bit more about that, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, kind of, I guess, looking at my own personal experience of being a female leader within the region and the challenges that I faced while I was there. And then, as I say, speaking to some of the ladies that are kind of going through that transition at the moment. And I think there's still a lot that needs to happen for Middle Eastern women, and particularly within smaller organisations. The larger corporations have been introducing some great initiatives, taking some best practice from other parts of the world and putting that in place. But I think the smaller organisations also then still need to make some positive changes. And particularly when we're looking at the entire, I guess, population, women do make up 40% of the population in Saudi. So most of those women will be coming up now and looking for positions in the workplace. So there needs to be some opportunities for them to progress within that. So, yeah, so as I say, I firmly believe that the Saudi 2030 vision has put women's empowerment among some of its top priorities. And so I'm looking then to help organisations in their work that they can put forward to support this development plan. So I'm currently working on an initiative which will be launched later this year, which will be supported by some of the most prominent organisations in Saudi Arabia and across the Middle East, and for which I'm also in discussion currently with Forbes Middle East as well. So this initiative will help to connect Saudi women and women across the Middle East to an inspiring female community to help empower and support them to develop among their peers and colleagues across the globe. So we'll be opening up opportunities to gain access to mentors and coaching, as well as tools and resources, collaborating across the UK, Asia, and the US. So it's really exciting.
Absolutely. So when you said, what were some of the blockages that you experienced? Because I would think that your personal lived experience really was very valuable when you built this. So tell me some, or a memorable experience that, or struggle that you kind of repetitively kind of come up against that really helped you formulate some of the things that you're creating now.
Sure. So I guess probably the biggest example was being the sole woman around the board table, particularly in an organization where women had never sat around the board table. So for me, it was really, it was a huge learning curve in terms of my influencing and negotiating skills, being able to put forward my opinion and my point of view, and for some of the men around that table to listen to my point of view, when actually women hadn't really traditionally been around that table until that point. And that was something that took a lot of courage from my side and a lot of perseverance. And I'm finding that when I'm speaking to ladies at senior level within corporations in Saudi, that this is still a challenge that they're facing today. It is changing, and I think the men and the senior leadership within the organisations are really open now to embracing that change and embracing what women have to offer, but it's still taking a little while. So that's why I think it would be great to offer women the opportunity to be able to speak to other women and talked about their experiences in similar situations and how they dealt with that and how they developed their skills, and how they were able then to become a really I guess important and really recognized part of that team.
So, the logical question that I have is, let's pretend I'm a female executive in the UK or Canada, where I am, and I go to a bid, let's say a bid, to a board, and I've got my slide deck. I've got, I've researched everything. I know what I'm going to say. I know what the pain points are. I know, what my offering is. I go, I deliver, and I'm going to meet objections, potentially price, whatever that's going to come up. How is that different? If we could kind of give us a lens in kind of in the Arab culture, how is that different for a female that's going into that context? I'm thinking of you walking into that boardroom with years of history where women didn't have the rights, then they get the rights, then you're the first, non-Arab women, which, probably comes with nuances there, and you go to deliver in that situation. Tell me what it's like at that point, and how are you different, or what do you have to do different so your voice gets heard to make the business case?
Sure. So I guess where that would be different is that the culture, I guess, has always been very much that it's very male driven, and that the male leaders around that table are the ones that have lived this experience previously and have the knowledge and the examples of where they've done this behind them. And so where it's different for the ladies coming in is that they really, so not only have to know their subject, but they also really have to be able, I think, to withstand some scrutiny from those male leaders in terms of the questions and the challenges that come from them. And that can be really intimidating for ladies, particularly if they haven't lived through those opportunities or those experiences previously, and that this is the first time that they've done this, which for many women it will be their first leadership role, it will be their first time of going in potentially to put forward a pitch. So I think that's where women can really help to empower other women. So we can really help to listen to those ladies and help them with their pitch moving forward, to help them to foresee some of those challenges that might come back from the rest of the room, and how they respond to those, how they respond perhaps to some some of the direct challenges from the men who haven't moved as quickly within the culture as perhaps they should do. And I guess really for the ladies, it's just the experience of being able to do that and to keep strong. So that's where I think we can offer some of those tools and resources, and that relationship building as well, building the relationship with their peers around that table. And they need to remember that they are peers. That's how the ladies really need to see themselves, as that they are the same level as those gentlemen sitting around that table. And it does take courage.
Well, absolutely. I think of the first time that I had my first corporate position, and just the stressors around, being able to go and, I bring up certain competencies, but still you're entering that arena for the first time as a young female executive, right? And then you're like, okay, I can do this. I have everything that they need, but you're still, that chatter in your head is still there until you kind of harden up to the environment and everything. So I think of women from the Middle East and the cultural nuances that would be the backdrop, and also the men that they are also presenting to, and them hopefully being enlightened enough in that context to create the space to listen to them and what the skills or the things that they're delivering as well. So I could see a bit of you're coaching them, and but you're also with some of the older guard potentially not being in the new frame or the new mindset of the new, UAE kind of thing. So I think it's a bit of both. So is it that you find that the younger generation of executive males in the UAE, are they more open to the newer concept? I guess it's probably no different really with kind of what we've kind of dealt with upper kind of levels across corporate, regardless of where you're in the world.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. So I find a lot of the younger generation within Saudi Arabia, also they're educated in other parts of the world as well. So they're educated globally. So quite a few that I worked with were educated in the US or educated in London. And they really recognise the contribution that women make to the workplace and the economy, and how valuable those opinions and input from women are. And I think, I think it's really important as well that as this generation comes up through organisations, they can then influence the organisation to be more supportive of women leaders. And I think it's really key as well to note that in environments where women feel more ambitious and more confident, that they're also more likely to advance their careers. So, the organisation is then going to have a very capable person as part of their team. And in fact, there was a statistic that I saw just yesterday that women are 62% more likely to reach management level and above compared to less equal workplaces. So they're 3 times more likely to advance through an organisation if that organisation is willing and open to support them and to recognise the contribution that they make. And I think definitely the younger generation will help to steer that as time goes on.
And absolutely, and women generally have more transformational elements for leadership, which would make sense with the statistic that you're talking. They're intuitive. They're able to kind of read nuances, or in a room, to kind of understand what potentially people might be. I guess again, the way we're wired, and again, making sense that 62% would be at that level. Now, for women listening, right? Not just in the Middle East, on people that are listening in the Middle East, or even in North America. Let's say North American companies that are expanding out into the Middle East. Sure. If it's a company that's thinking, I'm thinking about expanding, right? And based on what's happening, like you said, in some of the Arab countries with expansion, it would make logical sense with the markets there. What should some of senior leaders think about in reference to expansion out into the Middle East? What are some of the things that they might be thinking about with some of the conversations that we're having here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think some of the organisations, and I think what's happening as well with the 2030 vision, is that the government are actively encouraging organisations and businesses and brands to come into Saudi Arabia. The country is very much more open than it used to be. There's opportunities there for expansion of brands and businesses and services. So it's a great opportunity to go in, I think, at this point in time. So I think for brands, I think what they could offer actually to the country and to really help to drive some of this change forward is to come and set, I guess, a bit of an example in terms of opening up their businesses there and really promoting their female leaders, including their female leaders within working parties, within as part of the decision-making process. I think the history and the culture will change as more of these organisations come in and really demonstrate about how much they support women at all levels throughout their organisation. So it's exciting. I think the change is just going to continue to operate at such a pace. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Amazing. And I think that's so right. Like you said, like if you are looking at expansion and you have these, young female leaders, and, I'm at the stage of my career now, most of the female leaders that I'm dealing with, they're about 20 years my junior. So you're realizing how many female leaders have done so much quite young as well. And, now they're they're taking over the realm of pretty big positions. So I think that's really exciting for brands to, if they're seeing that there's female leaders that want to be able to take on new challenges and projects, what a great opportunity for companies to potentially offer that. So tell me, within what you're building, right, for a company listening and saying, we might need the help, to kind of access support for female leaders. What kind of support? You talked a bit about coaching. So coaching mentors, mentees. What else will there be? Will there be ability to have online courses? What kind of other things might you be offering?
Yeah, so definitely. So what we're hoping to do is, as I say, kind of create this network and this community for women, which will provide not only the mentoring and the coaching and the access to tools, but also the opportunity, I think, to network globally. So for an example, a newly qualified lawyer in Riyadh can link up with a newly qualified lawyer in the States, for example, to share, again, thoughts, experiences, ideas, opinions, and talk through some of the challenges that they find, not just, I guess, within being a woman within the sector, but I guess the sector and their industry in general. There's opportunities to link up with some of the large corporations. So we're hoping that they will be showcasing some of their careers opportunities as well, and what it's like working for the organisation. So there'll be opportunities there. There'll be opportunities for education. There'll be opportunities for qualifications. So it's going to be very broad in terms of everything there that women can kind of reach out for whatever stage of career, whatever stage of their career that they're at that point in time. If they need something, they can reach out and easily find something that fits with whatever, I guess, sort of situation they are. So whether they're working from home, whether they're studying at home, whether they're working in a workplace or hybrid working, whether they're a working mum. So there will be lots of opportunity there to tap into some of those resources.
So not just professional development, but also anything, and I sit in rooms with Forbes executives all the time and CEOs. And, the difference is that it's a space to be able to share those things. Like, if you're a beginning lawyer and, just the pressures of just being in the legal profession, but to be able to talk about, just if it's corporate law or whatever, and to be able to talk to someone that's maybe be doing 15, 20%, 20 years in say, Washington, what an opportunity, what a gift to be able to talk about, the stresses of beginning in the field, period, plus kind of the international element and what it means 10, 15, 20 years out with someone that's built a career. I think that would be a gift to be able to match women like that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, let's, I just wanted you to, I know you talk a lot about anti-fragile environment. And I just read your article that I guess is in the
in the
opinion, economic times. And I was quite excited about that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, the concept of an anti-fragile environment and what that means to us just internationally, but even also what that would look like in the Middle East, with them being more emerging. What are some of the things that we need to think about, which I was quite fascinated when I read the article, but I thought, let me talk to you about, because obviously that's kind of where you live.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so anti-fragile is it's a really interesting concept, actually, and it's something that I've done a lot of research in. It's a fairly new concept, but one that makes a lot of sense to me. And so in terms of, I think as well, in terms of the level of disruption that we've been experiencing as a world, really, as a kind of global nation, over the past couple of years with COVID, 2020, the year 2020 apparently as well has been a unprecedented year for global disasters. So climate change, we've had floods taking out whole communities, we've had bushfires, we've had earthquakes, and obviously there's the really awful as well, the war in Ukraine that's happening as well at the moment, and the kind of implications that's had on different parts of the world. And I think we can't really take for granted that disruption's over. Or I think in other ways, what we need to do is we need to be prepared to, I guess, really be ready for the next type of disruption that comes along. And the concept of being anti-fragile isn't really the opposite of being fragile. What it is it's making sure that as an organization that you grow out of the disruption that's happened to your organization, and so that you're prepared for whatever comes along next, and you're stronger because of it. So I think if we look at some of the organizations that have really suffered over the past sort of couple of years, the airlines is a really probably one of the most visible examples. Is if we think about them, they are a true fragile organization. And as soon as lockdown happened and travel was, global travel was frozen and couldn't happen, the organizations couldn't move forward. They couldn't move. So they were a fragile organization. Their services were really disrupted by that. But other organizations were able to, I think, look at what was happening and look at examples of where their organization could, I guess, really could move forward through the disruption. So if we look at breweries, for example, so breweries, obviously leisure facilities were had to close, but some of the breweries were using their distilling equipment to make hand sanitizer, which was needed across the world. So they recognized that they identified an opportunity there to keep their business flexible and keep it moving throughout this disruption. So they were anti-fragile during that. And I think it's a really interesting concept for businesses to think, okay, so if something was happened to us again, do we have enough uncertainty within our organization in place to help to protect us and to keep us moving through this period of disruption and to come out stronger? So it's a very interesting concept, and I think it's great for organizations to really think about that, because it's so important if organizations are to continue to survive and to succeed.
So it's almost a malleability test, like to take, as we get out of this, about how malleable were we through the pandemic, and not wait till the next big whatever, unfortunately. And we would not want to ever believe we can go through what we've gone through again, but it shows us that anything's possible. So it's almost like creating a stress test for thinking of the impossible, which truly this was an impossibility from a mindset frame, and to going forward to say, how is it, like, if we were not able to, like you and I in person, all our meetings went online, my trainings went online, I have a studio now, all those things that you had to adapt to. What a great, it's like a crisis management concept, and to put your company under that stress test, even when you don't need it.
Exactly. Exactly, absolutely. And yeah, it's something I think which, as we kind of were just saying, really, you know, that disruption, who knows what will happen next. So I think it's really important for organizations to consider that.
Absolutely. So to think of that in the Middle East, and we're going to wrap up, and I know we've probably already gone over time, Kelly, but if we were to think about that anti-stress test out in the Middle East with emerging female leaders, that's
Sure.
a thin edge of the wedge, but that's your playground. What kind of things should Middle Eastern companies be thinking about with emerging female leaders in the
Sure.
future?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the really important and one of the key factors for the Middle East to consider, which is something again which is coming in the Middle East, but is still taking a little bit of time, is flexibility. So for female leaders, it's about offering the opportunity of flexibility within the workplace, so that if there is further disruption, that female leaders can manage their home life as well as working in the organisation, their roles within the organisation, because I think we do need to recognise that women are still trying to balance their priorities as they have across the world. But the Middle East, I think, are still trying to look at how this can be implemented within the organisations. And as I say, I think the large corporations are more open to that and have actually embraced that. It's some of the smaller organizations that kind of need to understand that is something that they will really need to really focus on implementing, or at least having an idea of how that could be implemented if there is disruption with their female leaders, in order for business operations to still continue.
Makes so much sense, right? Something I think when I was in corporate 20 years ago and my son was young, I remember the juggle that I did. And at that point, we had just gone into the year off here in Canada.
Yes.
What a gift I felt I got at that time. And after that, was able to go virtual relatively quickly as a senior executive. So, which was kind of, we were just starting into that. So just think of with the Middle East, to be able to even introduce that concept. And I think the bigger companies, of course, because they have more ability to do that, they would be the role models for the smaller to mid-sized companies to kind of emulate based on, I guess, looking at the bottom line, truly, really, if you look at it. And I think of myself as a mom, Kelly, when I was able to do that with a young child, the gifts that I was able to give back because I was so completely available because my mind was clear, raising a family and also working. So I think it's definitely something that I believe that the Middle East will come along, but it'll take them a bit more time compared to the rest of the world. This has been an conversation. Thank you so much for your time. So first of all, for any senior leaders or people or women that are thinking, I'd like to potentially join this organization because I've got this wisdom, this legacy piece. I think of myself, at the stage that I'm at, looking to give back. For companies or even women that are thinking, I'm interested and wanting to know more about what you're building, where can everybody get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, it would be fantastic. I mean, I'm obviously on LinkedIn, and anyone can reach out to me at any time. I'm hoping also as well to be collaborating with the Middle East, Forbes Middle East, at a summit, a Women in Power summit that they're holding in November in Riyadh. So potentially there to really showcase what we're hoping to launch. So there'll be lots of information there. But I'm just open, really, anyone who wants to reach out and have any advice. As I say, I've got quite a lot of experience in the region, working with organisations, kind of going through this change and helping them to really make some positive steps. And we're going to be looking for some ladies actually to join as mentors and as guides for women as part of the network as well. So we will be coming out and looking for those fantastic female leaders, of which there are hundreds and thousands out there as well, to be part of this journey. So yes, it will be an exciting time for all of us, I think.
Busy and exciting, no doubt. I'm sure you're in the throes of finalizing everything if you're saying it's launching in the fall. And do let me know so that if there's anything I can do to help you promote it, I would be more than
Absolutely. No, we will definitely be well. But no, thank you so much. It's been great to have such a pleasure to talk to you about some of these experiences and how Saudi's changed. It's very much in my heart, having lived there for many years.
Awesome. Well, and maybe there'll be the opportunity to come to Forbes as well to be able to share about this, because I'm sure a lot of the CEOs at the Women's Executive Council would be interested in it as well. So for listening, like what amazing information. And for, it's a privilege to hear, as we work on parity here in North America, and we will continually work on parity with women. Transformational leadership is a core fundamental that females bring with them. So being able to expand that to different parts of the world that have not been as fortunate as us, what a gift you're giving to the world, Kelly. So what a nice place to be for you. And for everyone, if you're interested, please reach out to Kelly. But if you're wanting to know about authentic leaderships, whether it's at home or at work, what you can do is go to roxannedurhaj.com/quiz. You take a really quick quiz. We send you some feedback about where you're at and some steps to enhance things. So, just do that. It won't take very long, and we'll get that back to you as soon as possible. Again, Kelly, thanks so much for your time. Everyone, I'll check you out. Please check us out again next Thursday at 11. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Authentic Living with Roxanne, creating the space for positive, healthy change. Roxanne is a keynote speaker, psychotherapist, and coach. To work with Roxanne, visit roxannedurhaj.com/blueprint. We'll see you next time on Authentic Living with Roxanne.